Well, good evening, everybody. It is April the 22nd still, and 2015. I'm Cindy K. Courier, and this is my third video of the day. And I want to give a shout out to Ron Van Dyke, who is going into surgery, I believe, in the morning, and he is requesting prayers. And whether you know him or not, he represents one of many people who are in the hospital right now undergoing some painful things. So Ron is having heart surgery, a pretty drastic heart surgery, so he's requesting prayers. So keep Ron Van Dyke in your prayers tonight, and I know he'd appreciate it. I've had several people ask me how I can smile and remain so sunny through all the stuff that's going on and the stuff I'm sharing with you. And that's a fair question. And I think if I were some of you, I'd be a little weirded out by that. If you haven't watched most of my videos, you don't understand my perspective on this stuff. If you have watched them, then you do. You know I've had some experiences over the last couple of years. I'm not a New Age person. I grew up in a Christian family. My perspective on things is basically a Western perspective. Yet I had some experiences that really challenged my sense of things, my worldview over the last 2 years. And if you want to look at some of the videos, maybe over the last 4 months or so, I had some pretty profound experiences from 2013 on that have allowed me to understand that there is so much more going on than meets the eye in this world. We're going through a period where the people in the United States of America need to wake up to some realities that a lot of people in a lot of other parts of the world are awake to. It seems that the Western world is particularly numb to realities such as off-world beings, subterranean beings, technologies that we're calling advanced that other parts of the world has and is using that we're not allowed to have access to here. And for instance, trains that go 1,000 miles an hour. Someone shared with me an article just today where Japan is showing off one of their trains that goes 300 and some miles an hour. Well, we don't have that kind of stuff on the surface in the United States because we are being particularly kept in the dark. We're kind of in a blackout, in a technology blackout and a media blackout. I've been able to make some contact with some people around the world and gain perspective that makes me rather hopeful about all this. So that's why. I don't want to take up too much of your time tonight. But things keep coming across my desk, and I know that if I don't share them with you right away, I won't get to it. And so let's just take a look at what some of that is. There's a guy named Simon Parks who I first saw in an interview with Alfred Lammermont Weber maybe a year ago or so. And when I first saw him, he seemed credible, but I didn't have any reason to visit his material. He did an interview in the last couple days with Project Camelot, Kerry Cassidy, that addresses some things that I think are of particular interest to those of us in the United States. Simon Parks is from the UK. I believe his mother used to work for M15 and also did some work for, I believe, the CIA and maybe even the NSA in the United States. So he comes from a line of dignitaries. He is now I believe he has been elected to office in Great Britain. Despite his fantastic testimony, he has relationships with off-world beings. And it doesn't seem to have hurt his reputation any, but he has some perspective on what's going on in the United States that I want you to hear. He talks about what we're calling a financial reset. And of course, he's right. We are heading for one. Our reset is going to be more like a devaluation, I've heard, of our dollar by about a third. Our Federal Reserve note is paper. It's no good. It's really phony money, and it's not going to be tradable. It's not tradable in a lot of parts of the world right now. So it's losing value, and that's some of what plays into what we're seeing happening on this land right now. The United States corporation is pretty much the same entity, I would say, as the UN. I shared with you a while back a document that Donald Rumsfeld issued that he pretty much single-handedly turned our military over to the UN. And so, because we aren't really a country anyway, he was able to do that. And most of America had no idea that that was happening. I think that happened around 2000. Well, I don't want to say when that was. You can look it up. But anyway, the BRICS nations, which is made up of, I think, some 188 nations, have gotten together and decided to have a gold-backed currency. Well, the United States doesn't have a gold-backed currency and isn't going to until some other things happen that we can talk about at some point. If you're familiar with Karen Hudis, she talks about gold that is rightfully owned by the United States, that if it were released would pay off our debt and we could, have a gold-backed currency. But as it stands, we don't have. And so recently, President Putin, President of Russia, Putin, officially signed on as agreed to be the president of BRICS, and BRICS is rolling. And so our controllers, our bankster controllers, aren't very happy about what's happening. It appears that they're losing control of many parts of the world. So that's it in a nutshell. I want to allow you to hear Simon Park's take on that, a little bit of that, as well as his take on Jade Helm. So let me just play that for you. I pulled up his website, and here we have a little bit of a background on his mom and his grandfather and what he does. You see images of aliens. He has, I guess you could say, a close relationship with some alien races. So here I give you Kerry Cassidy and Simon Parks.
Start realizing that they don't have gold-backed money, and that to buy anything in from a country abroad that is gold-backed is going to have a problem. Now, in the alternative media, nobody seems to want to use the word devaluation. They like the word reset. And to be honest, we need to be truthful with people. We are talking about a devaluation. The only way, once this gold system comes into place, that countries like Britain or America can cope is if they devalue their currency. Now, Britain has devalued in the past, and what it does is it doesn't actually affect your buying power domestically, but if you're going to buy something that's come from another country, that can cost upwards of 4 or 5 times more. Now, in my country, in Great Britain, 45% of all the gasoline is imported. So we could be facing some shortages here. And on my newsletter, I just made the point that 80% of the world's shoes are made in China. So you're going to have to import shoes. That's going to have to come from one of these BRICS countries. So it's a massive political potential for some big serious changes. And that is why there has been such a kickback from the elites. I had an approach from agents from the Vatican just a few weeks ago who clearly were unhappy about the subject of President Putin being discussed. So it's a very, very, very serious and hot topic. And just to finish off then, I guess that's why I couldn't Skype you today, Kerry.
Okay, I will just tell you that I've tried to alert people on my Facebook page, and something in Facebook is trying to prevent me from posting anything more about this event on Facebook right this moment. So that's very interesting. Wow, what controls they have. There you have it in real time. Okay, well, this is, very, very important information, obviously. And some of the bits and pieces are known, are out there. But lacing it all together in the way you have is painting a picture. And that's, of course, what they don't want us to do. They don't want us to add the dots, so to speak. So let me ask you, Putin looked very pale when he returned. I have a back channel source who said that he was meeting with certain off-planet races that, when you do that, and I don't know if you feel this or have had this happen to you, but, that can affect your health. It can be difficult, when you, whether you teleport or whatever it is, you go into one of their craft or whatever you want to call it. Do you have any information on that?
Yes, he most definitely did meet off planet, humanoid, benign entities. The change in his demeanour was more to do, to be honest with you, with the massive implications. If you know that a hit squad has, been sent to try and murder you, and you manage to stop that. If you know that another country is playing a game of poker with you and says that it's got its nuclear missiles pointed at your cities, you don't need disruptive energies from off-world aliens to make you feel a little bit dizzy or giddy. You've got quite enough from the humankind, thank you very much. So it was the enormity of what was occurring, and that he was the only one on the planet who was prepared to stand up to some of these very evil people. And I think that this took its toll on him. Yes, when you meet some alien beings, if you're not used to it, then the energies can be a bit disruptive. It doesn't mean they're bad, it's just their frequency is different. The energies from a fourth or fifth dimensional creature, if you're not accustomed to it, can make you a little bit shaky. So I suppose a combination of that probably would explain that, Kerry.
Absolutely, makes sense. Okay, so at this moment, there are other things going on the planet in addition to this, and I can say that I was looking at the news this morning. I know that the dollar has finally dropped. And people have been saying it's going to drop. It hasn't dropped a huge amount, I don't think, but there is a sign in the markets, as they say. So I don't know if you've been aware of that or had reports going on today.
Yeah, I say to people, watch every day, get one of those apps on your phone that gives you the gold price. There's your answer, because the day before 9/11, United Airlines stocks changed dramatically. So the gold price is the best indicator of what's around the corner. But yes, if you look at the dollar, then you're looking at what they call the money men, who are pulling out their worthless banknotes and trying to buy something else that's going to hold the value. So there's your answer. Look at the way the dollar fluctuates. Look at the price of gold and put two and two together.
Okay, and this is something of a side issue to the total picture here, but it is crucial from the point of view of many people in the U.S. We have some live military exercises going on, actually starting here in April. There are reports coming from all kinds of people around the states, seeing various military goings on. And then we have things escalating. Apparently there's something going on. I think it's, if I have it right, somewhere in Minnesota or something like that, recently, very soon, and then also in June, and then in July through September, everyone's talking about Jade Helm. You might have heard of it. Do you feel that this is any kind of activity related?
Yes, the National Security Council received a briefing from the National Security Agency some time ago, which showed that with 1 million cops, it'd be very difficult without the military to maintain any sort of control over North America. The report from the National Security Agency to the Council actually was very interesting, because it said that the report was that the soldiers wouldn't fire on civilians, but the police would. And the element here was that military families are dotted throughout North America and are always fundraising for the military, and there's a huge pride with the military. And if most units were asked to fire on civilians, they wouldn't do it. But the police are, by and large, so hated and so detached from the community that the police wouldn't have a problem in shooting on local people. The difficulty for the states was that there's only 1 million cops. So when they did role-playing games, they did it all on the computer. They looked to see which cities or which states they could hold and which they would lose. And they worked out which of the ones they wanted to hold. And I think there's a big operation going on in California at the moment. California is one of the states full of alternative people. So is Texas. Texas is very, very independent people. So these were two states that Jade Helm were looking at to see how they would do that. The second thing is to try and make the soldiers feel more like soldiers and less like members of the community. The final element of it was to get the public used to seeing military on the streets. So there was a whole range of goals that they wanted to obtain with these exercises. They also know that this year and next year are crucial years for the development of humanity, for the level of human consciousness to arise, and this is just another effort to flex the few remaining muscles they have. So that's my take on it, Kerry.
Okay, thank you for that. So moving on, can you look at...
Okay, so there we have Simon Parks saying that his sources have shared with him that when the military were tested to see if they would fire on civilians here in America, it was found that they would not, which is no surprise. However, it's sounding like what I said this afternoon might actually be the case, that the police actually will, because they are more detached from the communities than the military, and that's pretty ironic, isn't it? Given that, you know, the military spends a lot of their time outside the country. Our own local police spend their time with us, and they will fire on civilians. So what does that mean? First of all, do I believe that? I know there are good cops, but there are very few smart cops. And I say that because anyone who has any insight can see what's going on, and even if you're just looking at the media, you see the rise in police violence. And so if that were my profession, I'd have to get to the bottom of it, just like I did with my profession as a, psychotherapist. I was part of a mind control system, and I had to get out of that in order to live with myself. Because I didn't want to be part of a big brainwashing campaign. And so police need to wake up to that also. I'll just share something personal. Years ago, my ex-husband applied for the sheriff's department, and he scored the second highest. They take all these tests, all these physical fitness things and mental things and emotional tests, and he was sure he was a shoo-in. They were hiring several people. His test scores were the second highest of all the people who applied, and he was turned down, and they had the kindness to tell him why. Because he didn't have the temperament. My husband was, a people lover, soft-hearted guy, and they told him that they need people who don't mind being a hard guy. So no more Andy Griffith types in the police forces, I guess. So there you have it. I see this video has gotten a little bit longer than I wanted. I did have other things to share, and I do want to share them, but I think I will wait until tomorrow. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Have a nice evening. Bye now.